ISO 27001 Annex A 517 Authentication Information. Let's go through an implementation guide for you, show what it is that you need to do. So what we're looking at here is, I think in the olden terminology, we were looking at passwords and password management, but things have moved on a little bit since then. The standard has managed to keep up with us. So what we're going to look at is how do we actually authenticate against the system? How do we guarantee to that system that we are the service, the person, the entity that we say that we are? So authentication information, the definition on the standard says the allocation and management of authentication information should be controlled by a management process, including advising personnel on the appropriate handling of authentication information. So here what we're doing is we're putting in what used to be that password management process. Now it's an authentication management process, all the way through from how do we create initial authentication information, how do we distribute it, how do we communicate it, what are the requirements around changing it, and then how do we monitor it and track it. So managing authentication information is a straightforward process and it's very easy to get right. Most of these things are built into, technologies and systems now anyway, but let's go through what that can look like. So allocating the authentication information, we've got to allocate that to somebody. When it comes to creating passwords and pins that will be used, you may want to consider generating them automatically. This can make the process more efficient, right? So here, the standard does focus a lot really on passwords, right? And we'll touch on a moment in a moment on other authentication methods. It does cover passwords, it's just changed its title, right? So creating temporary authentication information for first time use, we're going to consider that. We're going to consider making sure the temporary authentication is hard to guess and unique for each person, and we're going to make sure that it must be changed on first use. We don't want to give access to any old Tom, Dick and Harry, right? We don't want to be making like anybody getting access to stuff. We need to have a way of checking and verifying that they are who they say they are, that the system or service is what it says it may be. We can send the authentication information to people. We're going to do it in a secure way. So we can do it. And when we do it, we're going to make sure that we do it in a secure way. We're not going to email it. We're not going to send it in clear text wherever possible, right? So again, a risk-based standard based on controls that are appropriate to you and your business. But the guidance would be is don't do that. Common sense would say don't do that. It wants a step where the user acknowledges that they have received the information. This is new within the standard guidance. So we send them the authentication information. There's some kind of a step now that says, yep, I got that, right? So think about how you're going to include that. And we're going to keep a record of what we have allocated and what we have managed, and we protect that record. So we create a record of these are the authentications that we sent out, the information that we sent out, this is when we sent it, this is who we sent it to, and we're going to protect that log of information so that nobody can mess around with it. And lastly, if a vendor or a supplier provides default passwords, pins and authentication information, what do we do with it? We change it immediately, right? We don't rely on, we don't implement, we don't share, it's not part of our process that defaults are included in our environment. We get rid of them as soon as we can. So what is the user responsible? The user has a responsibility, right? The users do have some responsibility. They are not to share their passwords or secret authentication information. So this is going to come into training and policy and communication about how we make them aware of it, but these are what their responsibilities are. If there's a compromise or a leak, then the information and credentials are going to be changed immediately that you are notified. So the user is responsible for notifying you, right? If they believe that something has been compromised. Strong passwords where passwords are used are going to be implemented. This means passwords should not be easy to guess based on something that you could guess and find out, right? The usual password things that you would expect. Not dictionary words that are easy for a dictionary attack, not default ones, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to implement and educate our users in the generation of passwords that are reasonably secure. Even if they are phrases, hard to guess phrases, we're not going to go with those nice, easy ones. Potentially, we're going to have passwords of a minimum length according to the standard, which is pure genius, as any word has a minimum length, right? It says a password will have a minimum length, but it doesn't say what the minimum length is. Technically, you could have a minimum length of 1 character, right? If it is appropriate for you based on risk and business need. But our passwords are going to have a minimum length. We don't reuse our passwords across different systems in terms of the guidance of the standard, although again I would challenge that, right? Potentially we do reuse passwords, but again through risk management to satisfy the requirements of the auditor, we would make sure that we were recording that and explaining our business reasoning why, our compensating controls around that. And contracts of employment include the obligation to follow these rules. Now that's an easy one, right, in terms of the standard, because the standard says you will follow all company policies or a variation thereon, HR policies, information security policies, and this forms part of that, right? So there shouldn't be anything explicit you need to do, just make sure that you are covered when it comes to that. There is guidance on password management, right? There's guidance on the password management system. Again, heavy emphasis on passwords within authentication information. The general guidance that it provides is users are allowed to select and change their own password. Standard. They enforce strong passwords according to best practice. They force users to change passwords at first use. They force password changes as required, such as after a security incident. They prevent reuse of previous passwords, debatable. They prevent the use of common passwords. Where possible, they take account of compromised accounts and passwords and prevent their use. They do not display passwords on the screen when being entered. They do not store or send passwords in clear text, and passwords should be encrypted. So that is guidance on a password management system. If you are going to be purchasing a management system, implementing a management system, taking as part of the default technical architecture and infrastructure that you've got a management system that exists, that is the guidance that the standard is providing. That is what the auditor is going to be checking against. It isn't a checklist that you must do it. You must have a compelling reason why you don't do it and manage it through risk management if you don't. So there are going to be exceptions, right? Exceptions in there. There are many ways in which the standard is still old-fashioned, and it is technically a little out of date. So you see this coming a lot where it tells you what to do and then says, but in the real world you cannot do it, so do not do it. And this is the same in here, right? So this is what you should do, but I know in the real world you can't do it, so don't do it. So just be aware about how we manage those exceptions. Some exceptions would be that clearly other ways to authenticate other than passwords, you know, and they are acceptable. You've got tokens, cards, biometrics, right? We're not heavily focused here on passwords. We're focusing on authentication information. The standard doesn't really help us in that. And contrary to the standard, there is guidance about the frequency of changing passwords, that it might not necessarily help you to be more secure and actually can hinder people if you force them to change them regularly and they can't pick something that they've previously picked. It just creates a whole heap of frustration, leads people to write them down, and then compromises come in a different way. So as with everything within the standard, we go through the controls, but we are sensible when it comes to the control and how we implement it. We're looking at the risk that we've got and we're implementing to a level based on risk, and we're doing it based on the business need. When it comes to the mistakes that people make, there are common mistakes here, and these are ones that you're going to know, right? Sharing authentication information, right? People just do it, right? It's just lazy admin, you know, but it's human nature. So whether or not authentication information is shared, written down in a password book, written down on a post-it note, stuck on a screen, somebody goes on holiday and says, oh, could you just log in as me while I'm on holiday and execute and send this sales proposal, whatever it may be. The biggest mistake when it comes to the audit is sharing of that authentication information. It isn't known only to the individual or entity to which it was issued, it's known by a group of people. So just be aware of that. That will catch you out. It can come with physical authentication methodologies as well, right? The physical sharing of tokens. So sharing that token, sharing that that device, whatever it may be, can cause you a problem if you do not have the process and the exception process around that documented, and you do not have the risk managed, and you do not have compensating controls in place. So just the generic sharing of information is a mistake that we see. And your temporary passwords are always the same. That's a mistake that we see a lot. If all of your passwords, when you create an account for an individual, especially in large organizations, are P @ SSW @ password, maybe 1974 on the end of it, but it's always the same, then everybody can guess it, right? Everybody guesses it, everybody knows it, and it generates you a compromise. So getting your temporary passwords is a mistake that we see within the environment. So that is authentication information. We have to authenticate people, services, before we grant them access. We want to make sure that it's the right people, and there's some rules around that. The standard is heavily focused on passwords. There are other authentication methods in there. Do what's right for you. Look at industry best practice, follow that industry best practice to the best of your ability, and if you do have exceptions, be sure that you can articulate why you have them and you're managing them through risk, and tie it back to your business need, and that the risk exposure isn't significant enough for you to go to the degree that the standard is wanting you to go to. I am still Stuart Barker, and I am still the ISO 27001 Ninja, and I am still continuing the journey through the Annex A controls. So be sure to join me on another tutorial, but for now we are absolutely golden. Peace out.